Hey there YouTube! So today is the day for my wrap up. So this is going to be a wrap up for everything that I read in January and in February. January I read a lot of books and then February I read not so many. And the reason I didn't do a January wrap up is just because by the time I had the time to film a February wrap up, I already had a feeling that February wasn't going to be a very good reading month, so I decided to just squish everything together. So that's what we're going to do. This is my January and February reading wrap up. First off, the reason that January was such a good reading month is because I went on sort of a shoujo manga binge, if you will. I read a lot of shoujo manga, I bought a lot and read it immediately, so that's why I read so much in January. I actually didn't read that many actual novels. So first off, I read 9 volumes of manga. I actually talked about most of these in my shoujo manga recommendations video, so please go check that out because I talk about every series kind of more at length. The first manga that I read was volumes 1 through 3 of Honey So Sweet, and this is by Amu Meguro, and this is basically about this cute girl named Nao and her relationship with this boy Taiga, who is kind of has this look of a delinquent or a bad kid, and he's actually just a super soft boy. It's just kind of this really cute, gentle romance between these two. This is the cutest thing I've ever seen. It's so adorable, and the art is great, the story is great, it just warms my heart so much. So yeah, I think I gave each one of these a 5 stars. But I have a hard time rating individual volumes of manga. I'd rather look at a series as a whole rather than each volume because it's only part of the story. There's no one volume of manga that feels complete, so I have a hard time rating them, but I think I just love this series so much I think I went ahead and gave all 3 of these 5 stars. Next, I read volume 1 of Aoharu Ride. This is by Io Sakisaka. So this is the story of 2 friends from middle school who kind of had a crush on each other. They lost contact and then they got back together, or they meet again in high school and they kind of have to rediscover who each other are. And so this series is really good. I really like this series. I'm very familiar with Aoharu Ride actually, but I decided to pick up the first volume of the manga. I want to get the rest. I love this series so much. It's so good, and it's just the perfect teenage drama romance type of thing, so I just really love Aoharu Ride. Aoharu Ride. Wow, okay, Japanese. Yeah, I don't remember what rating I gave this one, but it's very good. It was either a 4.5 or a 5 star. Next I read, which is slowly becoming one of my more favorite shoujo manga series, and that is Waiting for Spring. I read volumes 1 and 2, and this series, I cannot put my finger on what I love about this series so much. So this is basically about a girl who just befriends the 4 super hot popular basketball stars at her high school, and it's just so good. The art is really refreshing, and it makes me feel nice. I feel this is an art style that I really like. But the story just feels really endearing and fun, so I'm just having a really great time reading Waiting for Spring, and I can't wait to read more. The next series that I read, I actually started this in January and finished it in February, but I read Horimiya volumes 1 through 3. So this, I believe, is technically a shonen series, but it's still high school romance, so it's just still what I love. I think it's just less flowers than shoujo manga, but essentially this is about 2 high school students, Hori and Miyamura, and they both kind of have secrets in their private lives that nobody at school knows about, and they discover each other's secrets, and they kind of develop this relationship because of their shared they're comfortable with each other, is what I'm trying to say. They're comfortable with each other, so they kind of develop a friendship and maybe a little bit of a romance. It's great. I'm having a lot of fun with it, so I'm loving Horimiya. I can't wait to read more of it. That is it for the manga that I read. Let's get into the one graphic novel that I read, and I read Sheets by Brenna Tumler. So I read Sheets. This is a graphic novel, and it is kind of about this middle school girl who doesn't really fit in at school, and she ends up having to kind of run her parents' laundromat. I believe her mother passed away and her dad is like really depressed and having a hard time with it, so it's kind of fallen on this young girl to run this laundromat without any help. And it's also about a ghost named Wendell who doesn't really fit in the ghost world, and he kind of travels to the human world and sort of haunts this laundromat run by this little girl, and it's just like a cute story about friendship. So I think about not being lonely or finding friends when you're lonely or something along those lines. I have kind of a weird feeling about this because when I read this I was not in a very good mental health state, and this is like very bittersweet and a little bit sad, so it probably wasn't the greatest time for me to read this book, but I still really enjoyed it. I definitely want to reread it. I may reread it in maybe October around Halloween spooky season, because this does take place in fall, there's ghosts, that sort of thing, so I kind of want to read this in when I'm in a little bit of a better headspace. But the art in this is fantastic. It has like this great blue like overtone to it, and it's just like the colors really stand out, but everything is very blue, and it just makes me feel calm. Like even though the story is a little sad, it does have a good ending, and I feel like the art really matches with the story. So yeah, I really liked Sheets. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Grey King by Susan Cooper. This is the 4th book in the Dark is Rising sequence. This is a series that I've been talking about a lot recently, but it is one of my most favorite series of all time. It is beautiful and amazing and so very great. So this is actually the first time that I've read The Grey King, or maybe, I don't know. So this felt kind of familiar. Maybe when I was a kid I read maybe half of this, but I definitely don't think I read the whole thing. Or maybe I read the whole thing. I honestly don't remember, because some of this book felt very, very familiar and some of it didn't. So I guess that's what happens when you read a book in middle school and then you become like an actual adult. It's been a very long time since the first time I read this. Essentially, this is part of a series. It is about like the battle between light and dark, and our main character is Will, and he is actually one of the old ones, which are these like beings that are the protectors of the light, and they're destined to fight against the dark. And so this whole series is a big battle between the light and the dark. And this book I think became my new favorite in this series. Before it was The Dark is Rising, the 2nd book, but this one became more of a favorite. So I think the reason that I like this book more than the other books is that this one is very much Will's journey. In the other books it's kind of like Will and then this older like kind of elder figure, Mary, who go on an adventure together, and everything is very much led by Mary, and Will is kind of following along and sort of like learning a little bit, but it's definitely like Mary is doing the bulk of the work. This one, Mary is pretty much absent from this book, and it's Will discovering this adventure and going on this adventure along with another boy who is his age. And I think I really like that because it feels like an adventure, and it feels like Will is the main character. He's pushing everything along the story, which is kind of the point. It's like the point of the mission in this story is that he has to do it himself. I really enjoyed that. There wasn't kind of like this elder figure always there telling Will what to do and things like that. So that's what I really like about this. This book takes place in Wales, so there's a lot of Welsh in here, and even though there's kind of like a primer on how to pronounce Welsh like within the book, like within the story, it's still very hard for me to pronounce the things. I kept on getting stuck on how to pronounce Welsh words, but that's just me. I can't ever get it. So that was a little bit of a distraction for me, but it doesn't really take away too much from the story. Just very, very good, and we're like reaching like a climax in the story. There's one more book left, and I cannot wait to get to it. So definitely, if you have the chance to pick up The Dark is Rising, especially The Grey King, definitely go ahead and do that because it is amazing. Obviously 5 stars. Actually piggybacking off of The Dark is Rising, we have The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a very popular book on BookTube, and very much so because it is so good. I love this book so much. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time, and I finally picked it up, and I'm so very glad that I did. So, interesting connection between The Dark is Rising and The Raven Boys. Maggie Stiefvater has said that the reason that she wrote this book is because she wanted to write a book like The Dark is Rising. So I really enjoyed that connection between these two books, and especially through a book like one of my favorite books of all time, and something that is quickly becoming one of my favorite series of all time. This is basically about this girl Blue, she's the daughter of a psychic family, and it's kind of prophesized that the first person she kisses, or if she kisses her true love, they'll die. So Blue kind of gets wrapped up in this mystery with these boys from this prep school from her town, and they kind of go on this quest to find a dead Welsh king, or I think it's King Arthur or something like that. I don't think it's King Arthur, I don't remember, there's a lot. But they go try to find some dead king, and it's super fantastical and amazing and great, and I just love everything about it. It's kind of like the spooky, sleepy romance fantasy book that I definitely love. I think I gave this maybe about a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5 stars, just because I had a really hard time keeping track of all of the boys. I got, most of them I got right, but it's just I couldn't picture them. Ronan was fine, but Gansey, somewhat, I kind of got an idea of what he looks like, but Adam and Noah, I just get the images of them really mixed up, so I have a hard time with that, but I think towards the end of the book I kind of got it. The story starts off a little bit slow, but it definitely picks up, and it's great, and I loved it, and I can't wait to read the next one. I loved The Raven Boys so much. Next, I read Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. So this book I actually got from my boyfriend for my birthday, and he had no idea what this was. I had no idea what this was. He just kind of I think went on Goodreads to kind of find something that he thought I would like, and he was very right with this. This was so good. So this is about this girl Lei, who is picked to be the concubine of the Demon King, or one of them. And so it's this kind of this story about her not wanting to do this and how she sort of resists that. There is actually a trigger warning or a content warning in this book that says there's lots of violence and there's sexual assault in this book, which I really appreciated. So you kind of know what you're getting into a little bit when you read this. That was really great about this book, that it warned you about the content in this book. I haven't seen a lot of books do that. And then also, this is a book with a female-female romance, and I have not read many books with female-female romances, so shame on me. I definitely need to do that a little bit more. This book was really refreshing to read. It was kind of not really a chosen one story. It was more of a story of a girl finding her own agency and deciding that she wants to pursue this save the world storyline, which I think really ties in well with the overcoming sexual assault kind of narrative that's going on here. This story, I think, is about finding your own agency and resisting kind of these powers that are happening, I guess. I don't know, that's not very well worded, but I feel she very much wants to feel in control of something, so she's going to be in control. She's going to try to be in control, or be part of the downfall of a bad ruling regime thing. This was very good. I'm very happy that I read this, and it kind of pulled me out of a mini reading slump, so that was great. I feel like I flew through this book. I was very happy with this. 5 out of 5 stars, definitely. And the last book that I started in February, I didn't finish, was A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. So I only got about a little bit less than 200 pages into this, and then I had to stop. I switched over to Girls of Paper and Fire because I could not take it anymore. This book feels like... I'm definitely going to finish this book. I want to see where this goes, but it's just taking forever. I had this problem with the second book where I felt like it kind of took half of a book to really get going, and I feel like the same thing is happening with this, except this book is very long. By the time we got into with the place in this book that we were in the second one was halfway over, but this still has 2/3 left to go. Hopefully this picks up. I feel kind of bad that I'm not having a great time with this series, just because I do like the Schwab's books, but I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe I gotta get more into this to make a really good decision, but I'm definitely gonna keep on going. It's just taking a very long time. Yeah, it just, like, I couldn't read much of this at a time. It was just taking forever. So I'm definitely gonna finish this one up. Definitely not DNFing it. It's just gonna take me a while to finish. And that is everything that I read in January and February. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading lately, or if you've read any of these books or manga and what you think of them. I'd be happy to hear. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish and nerdy content from me. That's all I've got for you guys today. I'm Chrissy Lou. Till next time, matane!